Hey guys, man, it's been a while, hasn't it? Anyway, I hope you're doing well through the insanity that is 2020. It's been quite a year. I knew this was going to be a weird summer, with no big gatherings, no car shows, etc. So we bought a boat and a jet ski, and it ended up being an awesome summer, until a couple of weeks ago when the jet ski almost sank. My son was on it when the bearing that the impeller shaft goes through started leaking. A lot. He was lucky to make it back to the marina, and without having to bail off of it. So anyway, here's how we fixed it. I should say, here's how he fixed it. And you have to pull the freaking motor out, or at least raise it, so that the shaft could slide forward under the motor, and then be pulled up and out. It's a horrible design, but the jet ski is so fast that it's worth it. So while I'll still be doing car content in the future, we have done so much to this jet ski to make it awesome that this should actually be titled Perfected Jet Ski. Thorough cleaning and detail, a new front hood since the old hood was sun faded, a new gauge display, which is ridiculously priced because if the old one goes bad, the ski goes into limp mode. We added new grip pads, which you'll see later in this video, and a bunch of other minor cosmetic stuff. Basically, this thing is like new now. So let's get into it. My son is the one talking and doing most of the work throughout the video, and I hop in every once in a while.
Hey everybody, got a 2004 Kawasaki STX 15F here. There is a couple issues with it. We're going to be pulling the motor on it and replacing the pump shaft bearing plate down there that enters the intake grate underneath there. It's leaking some water in there. And the bearing in there is also bad, so the motor's got to be pulled on these to get that shaft out and replaced. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how. There's not a lot of other videos on YouTube that really show you anything about this, so hopefully this will help a couple people out there. So everything I got some tape, some Ziploc bags, lights, that'll help me keep organized. Got my tools and such that I may need. Couple lights, and of course a speaker to have some jams going. Couple printouts from manuals I found that may help me out along the way. But I'm going to start by just taking the intake box out, this thing, coil packs, and yeah, we'll go from there. So hopefully you can see that good enough, but I'm going to start by taking the stuff off the top, and then just simple stuff, unplugging some connections and whatnot. Keeping everything marked and labeled because I've never done this before, so I'm no expert. But then we're gonna have to remove the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold for this motor to come out. So I've got the air box out and that metal tube cylinder that was in here. I don't know what it quite does. I'm not an expert at this, I've never done this, but so far so good. Got this temp sensor disconnected, and I've got it zip tied out of the way right here. It plugs into here, and then yeah, it's just still unplugging stuff. And or this right here is the let me get the light. That plate down there with the 4 bolts, you might be able to see it. That is where water is coming into the hole, so that's a no-go. It's pouring in through those bolts as well as the bearing. You probably won't be able to see it in the camera, but the ball bearings are actually missing. So the bearing is completely shot, which means water is shooting in the hole. So I almost sank the other week, so which is why we're here now. So I'm looking at this, trying to decide what I'm going to do next, and I think I'm going to go for the exhaust side first. As you can see here is the exhaust manifold. I'm going to disconnect that blue coupler down there to the water box, and then hopefully I can get this out in one piece without having to disconnect it in the center there. I'm just going to unbolt it from the block and undo that bracket down there and see what else I got. Alright, so I made a little more progress. There's a barb here, a barb here, and let's see, right there. So this one and this one are tapered and notched, so they don't want you to get these hoses off anytime soon. They were very difficult to get to, both of these. This one right here was definitely easier. It's just held on with a zip tie and slid right off. So I removed all those hoses and zip tied them together so they're bundled, and I'm going to tuck them out of the way just like that, so they're out of the way now. So now everything is disconnected for the exhaust manifold except for that blue coupler down there and this bracket. All right, so I've been working on this exhaust manifold for a bit now. These bolts are kind of tricky. So I've got that coupler loose, and for this exhaust manifold to come out and back, it has to get some more leeway from the water box or whatever that thing's called back there. So I'm gonna loosen that up and try to slide it back to give this coupler some more leeway. Alright, so I've got the exhaust manifold off now. As you can see, it's all cleared up over there, lots of room. Now I'm working on the intake side. I've got the fuel rail off, and I'm about to disconnect the intake and the return line, as well as disconnect the injectors and clear up this harness. It is now the next day. I've got some more work done. The battery ran out last night on the GoPro, so I wasn't able to film everything. But I'm about to go over what I did last night that wasn't filmed. So I got the exhaust manifold off and disconnected from the water box back there. Pretty simple. It was a tight fit getting out, considering there's not a lot of room, but it did come out. So as far as the intake side, I just got the intake manifold off, and I'm going to show you what all was involved. So when the intake manifold is in the jet ski, this is the flange side, so it mounts up like this, and the injectors have their 4 seals there. And it was pretty self-explanatory. There's the throttle position sensor here, another solenoid here, a temp sensor it looks like there, and a sensor up here as well. Unplug those 4, undo the throttle cable over here. It goes through this bracket into the mechanism. And then obviously remove your fuel rail and injectors. And then as far as removing the intake manifold, you got a bolt here, in the middle, and on the outside. And then you got 4 studs on top that just have nuts on them. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It slides right off. I didn't have any troubles getting this side out. But I'm gonna start working on the stuff underneath here. Got some more sensors, and probably getting to some oil lines if there is any or something like that. Alright, so what I've done is remove the negative that went to the starter, and as well as the positive that went to the starter here. There's a zip tie over here that held them on, and then a rubber hose that went to this fitting right there. So I removed all 3 of those things, and then unplugged the sensor here. I guess that's an oil sensor. So yeah, I'm just kind of tightening up the wires back there, moving everything out of the way. For the most part, everything is disconnected from the motor except for those 2 lines, which I believe are probably oil. I'm about to find out, but those 2 lines, and then we got 1 sensor back here I got to unplug. That goes down here somewhere. Alright, so I'm about ready to pull this thing. The only problem is I can't get the hoist lined up in a good spot that hangs over the correct position. I think I've got it as close as I can get it now, because the trailer is in the way. But anyway, I'm going to use this strap here and try to rig it up. Luckily there's spots on both sides to lift this puppy up, but I did remove this canister thing that was back there. You can barely see where that cutout used to be for it, just to give me a little more room when I have to slide this thing forward. But yeah, let's get to it. guys, so a little update here. Let me turn this light off. So the motor's out, obviously, and I have been taking off the foot pads because I've ordered new ones. So been taking the old ones off. Gonna have to spray bleach down here because there's some areas that need it. Anyway, so the whole reason we pulled this motor was to replace this part right here, and this is the pump shaft bearing plate that sits right down there, and it was leaking from the bolts as well as from the bearing, we believe. So it looks like there's sealant behind it, and then there's sealant back there on the back side of it. So after you remove the 4 bolts, we'll see what happens.
Alright, so here's where we're at. My son got the whole inside of the hull cleaned out, and we have this is the old bearing. It's in here temporarily, and the shaft is in here temporarily also. We're going to change out the old bearing for the new one. We just put it in there so that this back plate would stay in place while it was being sealed. My son got all the old foam padding off. We ordered some new stuff, and I just went and got 5 quarts of motorcycle 10W40. I don't know how much oil it actually takes. I think 4, but I got 5. Here's the old bearing. Here's the new bearing. This one was actually cracked right around the edge here, so that was part of the problem, plus the bearing is shot. As you can see, the motor's back in, and that was a big pain. Kawasaki, it's a horrible design. Change that bearing, you have to pull the motor. But anyway, fortunately my son did all of the work, and man, that was a pain. So anyways, motor's in. Now you're supposed to check for tolerance here, where these two, where the coupler meets the shaft, but actually I don't know how to do that. So I've tried it, you know, some logical things just to make sure it looks like it's aligned, and it seems to be. So we pretty much have tightened everything down at this point, and the new bearing's in, and the motor is secured to the motor mounts. So we're waiting on some gaskets before we can put the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold on, and I think they're coming in a couple of days, so hopefully this thing will be back together pretty soon.
All right, guys, it's been a second since I've recorded this, but let me show you guys where I'm at. So I got the new mats on, as you can tell, new traction mats. They look pretty good. They are by Black Tip Jet Sports, as you can see there. But yeah, they look good, good quality. Didn't have any problems putting them on or anything like that. So as far as the motor's concerned, got everything almost back together. Just waiting on the intake manifold gasket. I've got the exhaust manifold gasket from Kawasaki, but now we're waiting on the intake one. So yeah, let's keep going.
Alright, that's it. A little different than my normal videos, but I couldn't find any videos out there on how to replace this bearing. So hopefully this helps someone, because these are popular jet skis. Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. And now that it's not summer anymore, I won't be out on the boat as much. So I'll get back to making some more content more frequently. And anyway, stay safe everyone, and we'll see you soon.